The unmistakable sounds there of the Galician pipes, a sound that will almost certainly greet you as you enter the Plaza de Obradorio, the large square outside the cathedral in Santiago de Compostela. I'm Gary Swift. Hello and welcome to Bite Size Camino, the podcast for information and tips for the older pilgrim on any of the many caminos to Santiago de Compostela. In today's episode, I had planned to talk about how fit you really need to be, but I'll be saving that for a later episode because it occurred to me that I haven't actually explained what a Camino is. Many of you may already be fully aware, but I thought for completeness, before moving on to the practicalities, I should explain what a Camino is, where they are, and why people walk them. There are many Caminos around the world, but in this context, I'll be talking about the Camino de Santiago, or just Camino for short. The Camino has its origins in the 9th century, following reports that the remains of St. James, one of Jesus' 12 apostles, had been discovered in the northwest of Spain. Tradition has it that these remains are now interred in the cathedral in Santiago de Compostela, in Galicia. Pilgrims or penitents would make their way to Santiago, usually on foot, carrying their possessions, and often relying on the generosity of the people they met along the way for sustenance. On arrival at the cathedral and presenting proof of their journey, they will be presented with a certificate or compostela as proof that they have completed their penance. When St. James Day, the 25th of July, falls on a Sunday, this is declared to be a holy year. Legend has it that anyone leaving the cathedral by passing through La Puerta Santa, or Holy Door, is absolved of all their sins. La Puerta Santa is only opened in holy years. The pilgrimage to Santiago reached its heyday in the 11th and 12th centuries, but it's had a recent resurgence, and in 2023, over 450,000 Compostelas were issued. Although there would almost certainly be more people walking the Camino, not everyone receives the Compostela. So why do people walk the Camino? Well, as already mentioned, it began as a Catholic pilgrimage, and undoubtedly for a significant number of those walking the Camino, this is still the case. But in reality, people walk the Camino for very many reasons. For some, it will be for religious reasons, although surprisingly, not all are Catholic. On my Caminos, I've met people who were members of other Christian denominations, but I've also met Buddhists, Muslims, and Hindus, and quite probably other religions as well. Not all pilgrims walk for religion. Many walk for other spiritual or personal reasons. I'm not a Catholic, and I don't class myself as deeply religious. But following the untimely death of my wife, I felt compelled to walk a Camino in her memory. There are others who view it as a personal mental or physical challenge. For some, it's just a nice way to take a walking holiday, supported by good infrastructure and facilities. Whatever the reason, as long as they don't abuse the privilege and treat others with respect, then all are greeted with a warm welcome and mutual respect. There are very few rules, but one rule that is enforced by the Pilgrims Office is that whichever route you take to receive the Compostela, you must walk the last 100 kilometres into Santiago. For those making their pilgrimage on bicycle or horseback, they must complete the last 200 kilometres. So, where is the Camino de Santiago? When many people speak of the Camino, they are referring to the Camino Frances, because this is the Camino that many people have heard of. The Camino Frances starts in France, in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, 790 kilometres from Santiago. In the first few days, it crosses the Pyrenees into Spain. It has been popularised in films such as The Way, starring Martin Sheen and his son Emilio Estevez, and also in the UK, the BBC produced a series called Pilgrimage: The Road to Santiago, about a group of celebrities walking sections of the Camino Frances. This exposure has probably contributed greatly to the number of people embarking on a Camino. It was certainly one of the factors that influenced my decision to walk a Camino, although I did choose a different route. Although the Frances is undoubtedly the most popular route, and as a result the most crowded, it is only one of many possible routes. Quick Google search will reveal a network of routes starting in almost every European country, even across the Channel in the UK, all eventually reaching Santiago de Compostela. Although there are recognized official routes, you can start your Camino almost anywhere, even following the example of the early pilgrims by starting at your own front door. I've actually met pilgrims who've done just that. The most popular routes are well known at the Pilgrims Office and are credited with known distances upon completion. My other preferred route is the Camino del Norte, which starts in Irun in the Basque Country and progresses along the Cantabrian coastline across the top of Spain. This is a beautiful route with great sea views and interesting towns and cities, but there is no doubting that it is physically more challenging and demanding than the Camino Portugues. And here again, there are several options. You can even divert onto the Camino Primitivo at Oviedo, which is further inland and even tougher than the northern coastal route. The Camino del Norte eventually meets the Camino Frances at Arzua, approximately 40 kilometers from Santiago. I have to be honest, this section of the Camino Frances is the only one that I have any personal knowledge of. When selecting which Camino to walk, I researched several of the options, and the overall impression that I got was that the Frances is becoming a victim of its own success or notoriety. More people walk this route than any other, and as a consequence, it can get very crowded. And at busy times of year, the inevitable bed race ensues, where people are rushing to get to their next overnight stop to be sure of getting a bed. True to form, this proved to be the case on our section of the Camino Frances from Artua onwards. After the quietness of the Camino del Norte, this section of the Frances felt like a human conveyor belt. To be fair, at peak times in the summer, this can be a feature of any of the more popular routes, which isn't great news for the more elderly, especially the infirm, as they will inevitably be the last to arrive. However, if this concerns you, it is possible to walk shorter days or ring ahead and book accommodation in private hotels and hostels. I've never failed to get a bed, but on a couple of occasions I was advised to book the next night's accommodation in advance due to the pressure on the beds. On one occasion, the World Triathlon Championships were being staged in Pontevedra on the Camino Portugues, which coincided with the dates we were due to arrive in Pontevedra. Accommodation was in scarce supply, but we did manage to book ahead the night before and arrange beds for the night. Don't let this put you off though. If you choose the time of year carefully and plan ahead, you will be fine. Accommodation is available all along the Caminos, and if you choose to stay before or after the main stages, you should find less pressure on the beds. This has been a brief insight in a few of the more popular routes, but there are many to choose from. The most popular routes are very well served with facilities and are geared up to dealing with the daily trail of pilgrims. There is a wealth of information available online that goes into the various routes in greater detail. In your planning process, you need to consider how far you are able to walk in a day and how many days you have available to walk your Camino. This should help you to decide how far away from Santiago you want to start. Will you walk the full length, or will you just walk the last 100 kilometers? You could always break your Camino up into stages of maybe a couple of weeks and complete your Camino over several years, if that fits with your availability. Many pilgrims do this, and as long as you maintain continuity by restarting at the same place you've left off, you will still be credited with the total distance walked when you eventually reach Santiago. Alongside your choice of route, you will need to consider time of year. Some routes are achievable all year round. Some will be impossible in winter due to bad weather, including heavy snow. But at the other end of the scale, some routes will be extremely hot and dry at the height of summer, especially in July and August. From my experience, May and June, or September and October, offer the best walking weather. Remember, though, that the northwest of Spain is known as the Costa Verde, or Green Coast, and it's green for a reason, because you can be faced with heavy rain at any time of year. Also, consider that outside the main walking months, some of the accommodation may be closed for the winter season. Do you want to walk in quiet contemplation along one of the less busy routes, or would you prefer the hustle and bustle and frequent contact with fellow pilgrims on one of the more popular routes? If you're fit and active, you may relish the challenge of the more mountainous or hilly routes. If this fills you with dread, there are long sections of some routes that are relatively flat. Do you prefer to walk through cool forests or alongside spectacular sea vistas, or through busy towns or cities? The choice really is yours. Please don't let any of this information put you off. With research and planning, the Camino really is available to everyone, regardless of their abilities. You will be able to find a happy balance that meets your needs and wants and abilities. There is a saying known to all pilgrims: the Camino will provide. I've found this to be true many times. Next time, I will be discussing how fit do you really have to be. For now, I wish you buen camino. I'm Gary Swift, and if you've enjoyed this episode of Bite Size Camino, please give me a rating or review. It really does help.